I'm a professional seamstress, and here's all the work I did today. My first project of the day was a sentimental hoodie that was basically getting torn to shreds. So I removed the cuffs and used the excess to patch some of the surrounding holes, and then I replaced the cuff with a color match approved by the client. I think this came out really good. I'm pretty stoked on this one. Next, I had a pretty basic hem on a blouse that we wanted to remove 10 inches off of, so I went ahead and did that. Looked pretty good, was pretty easy. Then I moved on to this pair of slacks that had an invisible hem that fell out. Now, I told the client that I don't unfortunately have an invisible hem machine, so I would just create a new hem line, which she approved. So we went ahead and did that, and it's going to be much sturdier now, and she won't have to worry about it falling out again. The next project, I had a strap that kind of came out of its little loop-de-loop, so I pretty much shoved it back in and then sewed that back up, and it was good as new. For my next project, I had 3 pairs of pants that a client brought me that button-up closures, but he wanted them as zippers because he's in a wheelchair, and it's just more accessible for him. So I went ahead, and I basically just treated this like a zipper repair, but just put a zipper in over basically all the buttonholes. I say it turned out great, and I'm glad that this is going to be more accessible for him. That is awesome. So here are the 2 other pairs. And then on the last pair, we also needed a hem, so I went ahead and took care of that for him before moving on to a bunch of other hems. You know, wrapping up the day, I tend to keep the easy things for last because I swear to God, alterations is blue collar. I am like so tired after I do all this stuff. But damn, take a look at this last waist, and like it's literally so good. You can't even see where I took it in, and it's freaking patterned. And then I did it again with this camo pants. So yeah, that about wraps up my day. Thanks for watching. I'm a professional seamstress, and here's some work I did today. To start off the day, I did one of my favorite jobs, which used to be one of my least favorite, but now I don't know, it's a pretty cool one. So I just replaced the zipper on this pair of jeans. And then I started working on this dress where I was just taking in the waist, making it look snatched, before moving on to these really sick flared jeans, which we were just gonna do original hem on. And that was that, pretty quick, pretty easy. And then I moved on to this other pair of pants, which I was going to hem, and then use the excess to add in a panel on the waist to make it a little bit bigger. Then I picked up this really easy tear repair before I moved on to something that was a little more time consuming for the day. So I was working on this custom piece for a wedding. Shout out to my client for having such a cool vision and bringing me this doily that we're gonna put on this jacket to basically create this little keyhole moment for an open back. It is so beautiful. After that, I kind of rapid fired through some easier jobs like taking in this skirt, replacing a button on some pants, and then sewing on a bunch of fun patches onto my friend's jean jacket. And lastly, to finish up the day, we did an original hem on these really cool jeans. Not gonna lie, it was pretty difficult to get through this thick denim and line up those seams, but we got it done. I'm a professional seamstress, and here's all the work I did today. So I started off with this beautiful lace dress that my client wanted to make into a sheer lace dress. So I started by taking off all of this liner, carefully picking out the seams and cutting around the embellishments. And then I cleaned it all up, and it looks freaking stunning. My friend's a photographer, so I'm really stoked to see what they do with this. Next up, I had this really cute top that the strap was just kind of coming loose on, so I just quickly stitched that back up before moving on to this bridesmaid's dress that needed about 4 inches taken off the bottom. So of course I cut and measured that all out, took it into the desired length, and once again, looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. After this, I had a bunch of easy ones. So I had a small hole in these pair of slacks, so you could see exactly where the thread came up. I just stitched that back down, good as new. Then I had a loose clasp, so just threw a couple stitches around that, reinforced it, good as new. Next, I had this V-neck that was a little too V-neck, so we tacked it up a little higher so that it stayed in place and was work appropriate. Then I finished the day with heat setting a bunch of shirts that I just made because I also make and sell clothing. Check it out, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm a professional seamstress, and here's all the work I did today. So I started with this jacket that was losing some threads on the seams, so I just reinforced that in a bunch of spots. Then I moved on to this Free People dress that needed the waist taken in, so I went ahead and did that before moving on to this beautiful fur coat that just unfortunately had a massive tear. But no worries, I clipped it all up, sewed it over, and it was good as new. Then I had this sweater with literally a million moth holes, so I stitched and pressed those back up. Then I moved on to this dress where the strap was coming loose, so I just reinforced that, and then also on the same dress, I noticed that the clasp was missing from the hook and eye, so I just sewed that back on. And then I had a pair of jeans where we didn't want to replace the full zipper, so I just moved the stopper up, and then it was good as new. Next, I had this tear in a fur coat liner, so did my quick repair on that one before moving on to another dress that was losing the straps. So I stitched that back on, good as new. Coming up on the end of the day here, I had a pair of jeans where the top stitch was coming undone. So I unpicked a decent part of it and then redid the entire double top stitch. And that was all I did today in my shop in Salt Lake City. If you're interested in my services, I'm located in Salt Lake City, Utah. And you can find pricing and booking information on my website, which is the link in my bio. I'm a seamstress, and you're gonna come to work with me. My first piece was this really cool leather jumpsuit, and the zipper started to pull. And my client was smart and decided that we were gonna nip it before it got worse. So we stitched it back up, and it was seamless again. My next project was very similar, except that I'd gotten to the point where it no longer zipped. This one was a little more difficult because there was a poor design of having a pull tie right on the zipper seam, which creates a lot of tension and stress, but I did get it to zip again. Then I noticed as I was putting this pair away that there was a loose thread, so I stitched that down and then moved on to this bubble dress. We had lost some stitching in the V-neck and then also lost a lot of fabric in the sleeve. So I quickly stitched back down the V-neck and reinforced it with a seamless fix, and then I moved on to that sleeve tear where I had to go in through the liner to access the inside of the tear. Then I stitched it up, reinforced it, and it was good as new. Next, I was taking in the waist of this pair of jeans. This is a pretty intense project, so I didn't really take any process videos, but I did have to do it twice. Honestly, these are still pretty hard for me, but I enjoy doing it. And that's all the work I had today.
I'm a seamstress, and here's everything I did today, part 2. I started the morning easy with sewing on this patch before moving on to this leather jacket that I had been ignoring for days. I needed to replace the broken buttons, which was 16. Then I worked on hemming 2 dresses for one lady, and of course those came out looking great. On the other dress, which is this one, I did the hem and then also needed to take up the sleeve. Midway through that, our store ghost opened the cash register randomly, so, had to investigate, climb over my wall and figure that out. So that was fun, and then I finished up those sleeves before moving on to this pretty torn up piece of collar, which I think came out great. Then I worked on 2 hems, which are easy peasy, before moving on to this split crotch, which could have been better, but I really think I redeemed myself with this torn up Arc'teryx jacket. I think the repair came out amazing. I'm pretty proud of this one. Then I finished up the day with 2 simple hole repairs, which also turned out great. And I did do a couple more things in between the day, but definitely got distracted and forgot to record.
I'm a seamstress, and here's what I did today. So I started with this dress where the stitching was coming undone by the bust, so I did a quick ladder stitch and pulled that back together for that to be done. Next, I did this sweater sleeve that was also coming unraveled, so I did a quick stitch to fix that, which looked really good, and then I moved on to this small hole in a pair of slacks, which I stitched up. Afterwards, I took in the back of a suit jacket, which is something I haven't done in a while, so it took me forever. But then I had a lot of easy ones after this, like repairing a pocket stitch, and then I also got 3 of these dresses where the bust was a little loose, so I added in some snaps so that they wouldn't come apart anymore, which was great. And then I worked on reattaching some loose hardware on a pair of pants, which was pretty simple, just a couple stitches to fix that. And then my next pair was actually missing the hook that goes into that hardware, so I replaced that. And then to my last project for the day, I just fixed this hole in a pair of jeans, and that's it.
I'm a seamstress, and here's what I did today. Started the morning with an easy button before moving on to hemming a pair of jeans. And afterwards, I worked on this princess dress, which got sparkles everywhere. Then I had a client who had a stuck zipper, so I threw some stuff on that, worked good as new. Then I had these hippie pants, which I see come in all of the time, so I broke out the serger and really reinforced it, because these are made super poorly. Then I had a loose button, which I took off and reinforced. And then I worked on replacing this jacket's old buttons with really cute new ones. Then I went right in and I worked on 3 pair of Louis Vuitton jeans that needed hemming. They looked great. Then I moved on to this pair that needed hemming before I let the waist out on these slacks. This is something I didn't know you can do before I started being a seamstress, so I always loved this project. Then I worked on this hole, which I steamed and did a mending stitch over. And then I had a bunch of easy ones after this, small little holes along the seam lines that I was able to mend right up. Coming up on the end of the day, I cleaned up somebody else's work by fixing this seam. And then I also took another pair of pants and let the hem out. And that was my day.